It's just a podcast.
Just a podcast.
It is just a podcast.
It's true.
We need to stay humble, so we should start with, it's just a podcast. Let's now pray. Welcome. This is It's Just a Model. It's a podcast with Ron Kersic, my best friend, and Sneekes, just a random person. And we're both very much fascinated with the interstitium of all things interesting. We have a background in design, technology, innovation. What other things? Philosophy, probably. We have extended experiences with peoples. And that's why we talk about the things that really fascinate us, because we found out we couldn't do that with other people, I guess. And we thought it might be interesting for you, valuable for you. More on that later. So let's dig in. I think you're smiling, so that means I need to start talking.
Yes.
How have you been, Ron? Just to make a bridge, just to make sure we hear you.
No. It was a lovely week. Lots of workshops and figuring things out. Which turns out to be extremely tiring.
Figuring things out.
Yeah.
Is it frustrating, or is it more like that you're just depleted at the end of the day?
It's I'm actually physically hurting. My body is physically hurting. It's and which is fantastic that let's say mind games actually have a physical effect.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm kind of amazed by it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to dive into that specific topic, because I brought something. And this is a topic I've been working on for my early days when I just realized I kind of like was a designer of sorts. And I just wanted to make things, and I found out the conditions of making are various. And I also found out that the places where I was at, let's say, a company or an office of a company, they are not conducive of, well, they're conducive of specific things. And so the thing I'm going to talk about is kinetic learning. Kinetic learning is something that's basically when you learn now, for example, let's say in an office or in a school environment, you get books, you get theory, you read the things, you learn the things, you try to apply the things sometimes, but it's not always possible because of it's either too big or too elaborate or whatever kind of thing. So you start, rather than learning through, I don't know, using collaborating or whatever, you're basically done, right? You read the book and that's it. And similarly, with making things in a corporate environment or in a company, you start the work by doing meetings and
lots of meetings.
reading on a computer and drinking coffee, perhaps getting a little bit distracted at the coffee machine, walking back to your place, doing more computer things, having a meeting via Zoom or whatever kind of thing, saying, can you see it? Can you hear me now? Can you hear? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's not how we learn. People are, or that might be like a little sliver of how we learn, but we're missing all kinds of things. I think I touched upon that in a previous podcast. We have a certain bandwidth with communication and stuff like that. And if we have, for example, Zoom, then you see this. Yeah. Then you see like at 1/5 of you. And also we miss dimensions like smell, sound, all the resolution, the fidelity of the experience of interacting. It has been lowered drastically, basically, or by calculation, or you would say, this will take 5 times longer because of that, right? I see I have 1/5 of the bandwidth, so things will take 5 times longer. But we don't say that. We just do la 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 to ourselves, And we basically say, yeah, well, that's it. That's how we're going to do things now. And this has an impact on the results that we make, right? We try to fool each other. This is valuable, or we spend like weeks on this, but it's not. And similarly with kinetic learning, you basically, in that office space, you have this limitation. You basically take away all kinds of means for people to both interact and learn. And this is specifically the physical space. Walking towards a thing, standing next to each other and looking at a thing, walking towards a thing, moving it about, going outside and meeting different people and share things with them and ask them things or do things together in a space that is not sterile, or is, let's say the other way around, is familiar. And kinetic learning has to do with both the space, with touch, using all your senses rather than just your eyes, for example. And it has been proven that it's has a really high retention rate compared to like limited ways of learning. From my point of view, learning can be interchanged by being effective or being, but also being fulfilled with the experience. Yeah. I think fatigue of being in an office, the reason that people stay at home, perhaps, but similarly, the reason why people can't Zoom that long is because they miss the bandwidth. Yeah. There's something wrong. Yeah. And that's one of our lexical gaps, right? It's the word that we don't have of the thing that we miss, but we don't know why, or we don't know what. Yeah. And that's why I hate offices. and I specifically hate offices because we kind of relinquished ownership of the space that we work in. Yeah. I'm not sure how it is with your employer, but our employer base, or my employer, and in the past and probably also in the future, they have another company doing all the internal stuff, and they also own the building. You don't want to own things as a company; you want to lease them, and this means that you don't have a choice of certain things. So, for example, sticking Post-it notes on the windows. That's not how we do things. That's forbidden even. Yeah. Leaving your Hello Kitty collection on your table and coming back on Monday and having it still be there. Yeah. That's not how we do things. We have a clean desk policy. Yeah. So we have an external party dictating basically not only what's permitted, but also what our behavior is. Yeah. And that's my main gripe with, let's say, open offices, but offices in general. Yeah. We seemingly, or through our bias, happily accept the fact that we relinquish control of the space that actually should be built to maximize our working pleasure, our working bandwidth.
Yeah. I mean, an office is a technology. Yeah. Right. It's technology from a day and age, I think, where we actually happily or grudgingly relinquish control over our work anyways. Yeah. Right. I have this when I do a presentation about AI nowadays. I have this what I think is a great picture from a movie from the 1960s. The movie is called The Apartment. It's with Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine. It's a Billy Wilder comedy. Oh wow! It's black and white. I think it was the last movie to a black and white movie to get an Oscar. And there is this so the shot I have because the movie is situated in an insurance company. Yeah. And Jack Lemmon has a job at that company called The Computer. He is a computer. Oh, right. When computers were actually humans doing calculations. So you see this enormous room with maybe 50 rows of desks. And each row has like 20 desks in it. And people are doing calculations, right? On the electromechanical calculator. A slip of paper comes out and they hand it to the next person, etc., etc. So basically that's a spreadsheet. Yeah, yeah. Right? And for me, that's the metaphor of the office. Yeah. Right? Where you have all these little spots, all these little cogs, and we're having a spot, a position in the assembly line, right? I turn two nuts, then it goes to your place, and you add another washer, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a factory.
So it's a factory, and luckily enough, I think the work you and I do is not factory work anymore or factorized work anymore.
No,
I mean,
it might even be impossible to make a factory of us.
yes,
I actually thought about that.
And I'm not saying that because out of bragging, but if you actually see what we do nowadays, it's so much more about connecting and understanding and organizing and synchronizing and finding out the right questions to ask instead of having a right answer. Actually, pretty much half the discussions I have nowadays is geared toward what is right, actually.
Yeah.
Right, so it goes up and up the chain in that kind of sense. And these kind of discussions you do not have sitting at an anodyne desk. I mean,
it seems silly. It seems.
No, I mean,
captivated. It's like people are.
I mean, it's a constellation for a job that doesn't exist anymore. That's the 1960s apartment screenshot. I mean, at that time, that was a job, right? He got a slip of paper, did his calculation on the machine, another slip of paper comes out, and you do that 5 days a week or probably 6 days a week back then.
Yeah.
And that's not a constellation anymore. And as always, right, we moved on, but we still have the old artifacts.
Yeah.
Right, we moved on and we still have the factories.
Yeah, we kind of have a change. I have this very how do you call it, tinfoil hat theory about open office, because open office has been a big change in the constellation that you just talked about. And I thought, okay, the open office is thought of by a furniture a trader.
Yeah.
And it's a very well-known person. I think he, either before or after, he was a big director at IBM. It's really cool. And he basically said, and this is for very reasons, specifically for the Dutch, he went, I think for the first time, he went to change the mission of a company, going from making furniture to designing work. And this was a very big change, right? Yeah. And Philips did a similar thing. Yeah. Basically, they started from making light bulbs. Yeah. They designed illumination, or they caused illumination, or they made sensible things. Yeah. And it's such a brilliant. I mean, it's words, right? But words matter. Yeah. And it basically changed the way people started buying furniture. And the open office is something of a chaotic influence on how we perceive offices. So rather than improving the way we work and meet each other and collaborate, it's basically it scattered people. So it had an adverse effect in the end, right? Because in the beginning they did it quite smartly. It was pretty good concept to get like, okay, you have a talking space and you have a concentrating space and you have a food space and stuff like that. It was really nice. But people kind of like lost the plot on why there was a smart idea, and they went for the aesthetic of the open office rather than the effect of the open office. Yeah. And that really bothers me, because I like designing spaces. I like to design conditions, but having to deal with people that are fascinated with the aesthetic of working is really bothersome.
Yeah. And of course there is a lot of aesthetic in work. Certainly office work.
Yeah. Right? You know how good work looks like. Yeah. It's people bending down over little screens and typing on things. Yeah. Calling people.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Salespeople, they're notoriously loud in a public space.
Yeah. I mean, and bragging by complaining about how busy your schedule is.
Yeah.
Busy. We both did.
Yeah, right? But it is to me. I mean, I think I kind of let go of that like years ago. But to me, a busy agenda is basically you don't have control of your own life.
No, I mean a busy. If my schedule is busy, for me that's a red flag. I need to pause.
Yeah.
Something is going wrong.
Yeah.
Right, and sometimes that's inevitable. Sometimes things happen in life, and it's all hands. Totally get it. But if that persists, it's wrong.
Yeah.
And, I obnoxiously brag about how empty my calendar is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the moment I stop bragging.
There is a very nice video of Casey Neistat, and he talks about why he won't take your appointment.
Oh.
It's really nice, and he basically says, "Okay, you have two kinds of people, right? Every good storyteller."
Yeah.
Brings everything back to two or three things.
Yes.
So there are two kinds of people. There is one kind of people that really like structure and basically build like little bricks in their agenda.
Yeah.
They really like it, and they really find like empty spots in that agenda.
Yeah.
Really bothersome. And you have the other people that basically need space. They need space to think, walk about, create.
Yeah.
And this is specifically in the creative industry or the creative space activities, you need to have no interruptions. So you, rather than plan activities, you're anti-planning interruptions.
Yeah.
It is like flipping the script.
Yeah.
And I just like that. We'll make sure to link the video in the because it's excellent.
Yeah. This is a good one.
Yeah. It's a philosophy I really want to adapt. But it's not per se acceptable in a classical.
I think I read something in along those lines of how people write novels. So one group of people really does it very detailed, right? The almost this tree-like structure of the chapters and the various paragraphs and that kind of stuff. And there is this other type of people that just toys with sentences and sometimes spend years on one or two paragraphs until they click and they write the rest of the book in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so when I read that one, I was really relieved because I'm in the second category and I tried to be the first and failed horribly.
Yeah.
So that's the so this is kind of recognizable.
Yeah, me too. I had we had a copywriter in like a couple of companies ago. And this copywriter had this very interesting dynamic. He basically did kinetic learning, and he just embraced it. And it was very odd to other people, even in it was a creative company. And basically what he was doing, and we were in the center of Amsterdam. We had huge windows, and we're just looking down to we're on the first or second floor, and we look down on the busyness of the peoples in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
It's lovely. And what he did was standing in front of the window, and he didn't have glasses like I did, but so he did this. And he touched his face and mangled his hairdo and kept looking and then walking to the other window, the back window, and looking out there. And then all of a sudden, after half an hour or an hour or something, he went to his desk and that's it. And he was gone again, and he was doing other things or whatever. And this, to me, this is like my gold standard of creativity, or my gold standard of working. This is how work should look like.
Yeah, indeed.
And
that's the new aesthetic.
And exactly. And nice. And he didn't. He didn't make it within our company, and I still lament. I wish we would recognize this pattern, because he might be a great mentor even on how to do work, how to be. I wouldn't say productive, but how to make nice things.
Yeah,
it needs.
But I think work is changing.
Yeah,
and I think it changed markedly since Corona. Or the lockdown during the pandemic. I mean, so I, for one, after the pandemic, really embraced the physicality of things, doing things, making things, moving things physically, right? So
same.
I didn't know about kinetic learning, but it totally resonates. But also, maybe it's just the career I am now, but I have a strong feeling that instead of making things and producing things, it's much more connecting and liaising and organizing and synchronizing, and it's all these things, and then the work happens. There is it again in between.
It's the interstitium,
again, right?
Yeah.
And of course, once I had that term, I now see it everywhere. So I'm totally biased. I totally get it. But I have so when you're listening to you, I think that's something changed. It really did. So the aesthetic. So the aesthetic doesn't fit the work anymore.
Yeah,
it probably
indeed.
didn't before, but now it just is so noticeable.
Yeah,
it's so noticeable.
And the aesthetic is also the words that we use.
Yeah,
right. We just met on the street, and we saw a mutual friend, post something on LinkedIn, and he used the word users.
Yeah.
And you know who you are, and
we know who you are.
Yeah, and it was about doing research and making sure the connection with your business goals are leveling out with the needs of the people, right? And most of the time, you would look at, well, what does the life of a person look like, and how does your brand fit in?
That's it.
And it's that way around.
That way around, indeed. That's what I meant. Yeah.
So, how do you regard somebody like that? It's a person.
Yeah.
It's a person with a life. It's part of a family, of a neighborhood, whatever kind of thing. And those are the things that dictate choices.
Yeah.
Rather than at a certain moment they're holding a glass surface and try to interact with it.
Yeah.
That's not the start of the interaction with your brand or your service or
that's
whatever.
That's not the start. That's not the end, and that's not what they are. Right?
Exactly.
That's what they do.
It doesn't define the need.
Yes.
It doesn't. Yeah. And so I said to him, because he knows, I said to him, dude, you're using the word. And he said, yeah, I know. He couldn't help it, I guess. But those words, when you say, for example, as a company that somebody is a user, then people will, at a certain moment, you will make things for users and people will adhere to that.
Yeah.
And this is something I also saw in a post, and it's basically it says something of akin of how to society, and this is interesting, right? Well, we have a society, but these days, because of digital, we started thinking about our governments as a service provider.
Yeah.
Right. And before democracy, or even in the early days of democracy, we weren't. We were a subject of the democracy rather than, let's say, a more interactive variant of that. But nowadays we're a consumer of our government, which is weird because we are the government, right? They're people walking around. So because of the words that we use, and let's say if we say, okay, we have government service, we will act as consumers. And what do we do as a consumer? We demand things rather than receive things as a subject of a democracy. Or perhaps in the near future, if we act as an actual citizen, this was kind of like the point, we will not say, for example, we deserve or we want or we should get things like kind of like that, what we see in many young people as well. It's like we have an inherent right to certain things. Well, no, because you're a citizen, you're part of this. So if it's missing, you should be able to be able, but also you should be working on it and make it better.
Yeah, there is agency there, right? And,
yes.
And consuming doesn't convey agency as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it is interagency, right? You
are
connected with all the other peoples, and you form a random group most of the time, but also a random group that has certain things that you want or need or whatever.
And a changing group, and people zoom in and they zoom out again, and it's
so these days I'm more than other times, and I'm pretty word focused, but more than other times I really focus on how we call things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because they might dictate the things that we hear, and sometimes it's just make fun of it because some people know. But in my professional work, specifically towards customers and also governments, it's really good to just take a little bit of effort and find the right word. Yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so the workshop I alluded earlier to, I mean, at least half the time is spent on finding the right word
Yeah.
for the roles people, communities, entities play.
Yeah.
Right? That's and
Yeah.
and the right word is not producer or consumer.
No.
Right? I make something and you give me money for it and you consume it. And please come back tomorrow. So it's what are the right words to actually describe the intent, the behavior, the motivation, what somebody can contribute, what somebody actually is looking for in others, etc., etc. So it's the
are you a guest? Are you a host, for example?
That's our traditional example by now.
Yeah.
Airbnb makes for a great example for what we just talked
They
about.
programmed us. You are a guest. Yeah. And perhaps somebody might be a host, so that might.
Yeah, and you can be a guest and a host.
Yeah,
it's the and as a guest, you have a bit of agency in the way you actually participate in the whole experience.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
And you also have responsibilities, right? It's like
That's it.
You're not messing up the space. You're not touching the things in the vault.
Yeah, yeah.
You won't be intervening with things that you don't understand or are not about your business. Yeah, indeed. It's very. It's just funny that we perhaps in the. Yeah, I think that's kind of like a theme in this podcast that we kind of like try to keep the status quo statusing. I'm not sure what the word is. After status quo quoing. So let things be the same, right? So insisting on using the words that we used before, and because it's change and redefining things is kind of like what we want.
Yeah, but
don't want.
Yeah, but words but also aesthetics are lagging concepts, indicators. Right? They always follow what is actually there. So you always lag in your aesthetics. You always lag in your words.
Yeah. And fortunately, we have fashion, right? So fashion also changes, fortunately. And sometimes words are also very under the influence of fashion.
Yeah.
So if we talk in terms of base layering, that's probably we can intervene before it's actually. Before a word reaches the what is that? The production layer,
or culture even.
Or underneath. I mean, culture is also a little bit of a fleeting layer, I think. But before it goes underneath of culture, the visual is also in the show notes, by the way, if you want to follow along. Base layering.
Yeah.
And so you have all kinds of layers, and the top layer is the most fleeting, the most moving fast, and fickle, I would say.
Yeah, fashion.
And the more you go down, the more things are codified and not changeable.
Yeah.
For example, physics.
Ending with nature.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And yes, I don't know where I was going, but I think. Sometimes we also make things, I don't know. So I had this thought about the dynamics in a commercial company that we make things. I'm sorry, I'm skipping between topics, and I know. There's this. You make a product, for example. And it seems like the process of things making doesn't have an undo, doesn't have like that you can't, let's say introducing a word, for example, AI, and now we're having generative AI, and it's not bringing clarity. And but it's been introduced, so we should cope with it, I guess. And you can only, by a larger force than the culture that has been set, you can change that, right? It's you should bring something new rather than redefining that's already there.
Yeah,
or give it a new name, a better name, perhaps. And this is something I've specifically on the things that we make. It seems to be linear. We can't go back. There's no undo. And I find that interesting. I'm not sure if you.
And how would that look like? On doing things?
So So if, for example, if we introduce like a new feature in a product that really encroaches in the agency of people, a company organization, people should be able to say, oops, this is not what we should do.
Yeah.
We should totally not do this. And this is like a very impactful moment or a thing that's totally wrong. But similarly, also little things, right? It's like, okay, we try to discover this particular design for, I don't know, for a journal application or whatever.
Yeah.
And we just find out that the little color scheme doesn't work or...
This is a nice one because of course it's a nice one. It's so one thing I have been annoyed with recently a lot. I'm pausing for dramatic effect now. It's that any discussion about things being right or wrong doesn't include time, right? Things aren't right or wrong per se. They are right for a certain time, and then time passes, and then they start being wrong-ish.
Very nice.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so in the Netherlands recently, we had this little, I don't know, maybe not scandal is a big word, but with a certain bank in the Netherlands that was a bit prone to phishing.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why they were a bit more prone to phishing is that one of the reasons is that in their savings account you can directly transfer money out of your savings account to any third-party account. I mean, typically it's from the savings account to your current account, and for your current account to the third parties.
Yeah, that's kind of like how we use it, right? That's how we learn. So the savings account is a little enclave, and it can't interact with the outside world.
Yeah, and this bank takes pride in being a digital first bank or the digital native bank or the bank of the free, as they call themselves.
Calling names. I mean, it's
slightly
bank.
Okay, it's bank.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why this started going slightly sideways, or actually massively sideways, independent, is because they started offering quite a high interest rate on the savings account.
Yeah.
So they started attracting a different type of customer. Not your digital native, not your digital nomad, but people that basically come for the higher savings rate. So a feature that made sense for their original target group, so to speak, who actually probably get these things or they understand what the pitfalls. And suddenly this feature doesn't work for your new kind of audience, right? So time passes on, and what worked then is a bit it's a potential pitfall, not potential, is a pitfall now.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the discussion then immediately gets, they got it wrong and they're doing it wrong. Well, they got it right, but it isn't right anymore.
Yeah.
And it's the whole time things.
Or it's not right enough.
And that's the and there is a model I really like, and this is just a model after all. It's by Simon Wardley. Simon Wardley, by the way, is the king of models. Maybe we should do a whole episode about Simon Wardley.
I need to study this guy.
And he has this really nice model, I think, or description on how technology matures. Mm-hmm. And he uses 3 words for that. It's wonder, peace, and war. And wonder is when something is, you can immediately understand what it is, right? It is something, and we have no idea what it is.
Yeah, it's directionless.
And it's directionless. It's shapeless. There is not right or wrong. There are no rules yet. You cannot even break rules because there are no rules yet, right? The first home computers. I have no idea what's right. Is it 8-bit? Is it 9-bit? Right? Is it a wooden case, a plastic case? I mean, so many form factors, right? Because there is no right yet.
No.
Wonder.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point of time, a dominant design takes hold. This is kind of what it is.
Yeah.
But then the market starts growing. So even then you have a bit more certainty, a bit more participants, but the pie gets bigger.
Right.
So that's the peace phase. Right. So and where the water is rising all boats.
Yeah.
And at a certain point in time, everybody with a home computer has a home computer. It gets more and more understood. The value chain gets more and more commoditized. More and more entrants get in an ever crowded market.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you're getting in the war phase. Right. So. And this slightly longish introduction is what works for one phase doesn't work for the other.
Yeah.
And we kind of forget, I think, to actually take hold a bit. Okay, where are we right now? So with AI, for instance, we're both in the war phase of digital services,
Sure.
but also in the wonder phase of this post-mainframe thing.
Yeah.
Right? So in any discussions about AI being either great or obnoxiously bad needs to take into account, well, where are you on this peace and war spectrum?
Yeah.
Right, and this never happens in discussion. It's bad or it's obnoxious and it's big tech and
It's frustrating. It's really from the person. It's from the it's a 3D situation, but the players are 2D.
Yeah.
So they what is that? It was the flat world or something.
Flat land or
something like that.
Yeah.
It's like people not being aware of where they are, or that other dimensions exist.
I never make that connection, but that's it, and that's and that makes the whole discussions not right or wrong, but not even wrong, right? It's totally beyond the point.
Yeah,
and that's somewhat confusing and irritating when I get drawn into this, or when I allow myself to be drawn in those discussions, because it's me, right? But I mean, the time aspect is so important, that things progress.
Yeah.
And that new things pop up and it makes sense or not anymore, right? So, and I also listened last week podcast, More or Less podcast, which is really nice. And they mentioned, which is also really nice.
It's not entirely a podcast, or the podcast is called More or Less.
It's called More or Less.
Okay.
It's with a couple called The Lessons and The Morins, and they called More or Less.
Nice.
And one of the lessons is Sam Lesson, and in the next life I want to be Sam Lesson.
Oh.
I really admire the guy for the way he articulates things and how he comes to things. So, but okay.
Ooh, I sense we're kind of mirroring his behaviors. Then
I'm trying. I'm hopelessly failing. But they mentioned that Y Combinator had a practice called being naughty, which is intentionally break rules.
Right.
Intentionally break rules to actually get your product some traction, etc. And of course the sense was, this is bad. How can you have something that's called being naughty? But being naughty makes sense if something is still in wonder, right? I mean, being naughty is, there were some rules, but maybe they don't even apply yet.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and so this not taking into account, where are we in the spectrum of certainty and maturity, and this is a bit of a rant, but it's
I totally get it.
I think time is so important. We always forget about time. That things take time. That it's never a point. It's a phase. It's
a vector.
It's a vector. Fantastic.
Yeah. The vector, as in, it implies also a movement, right? It's not standing still. It's not just a direction.
Yeah.
It's a movement towards something.
Yeah, indeed. Kinetic movement.
We have a bridge here.
No, we have a bridge.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I think awareness of where we are might also inform us better, not per se how we can behave, but definitely how we can predict what kind of resistance we might find, depending on what kind of things we want to do. So, for example, I did some innovation tracks for a really big pension fund, and it was really funny. To me, it was actual funny. So we ended up at this really nice office, like really huge, like marble everywhere, because these people are literally made of money.
Yeah,
I think that's an apt use of the word. And so we were in this huge office, and people working there were welcomed. It was very nice people. And our mission was to do some innovation sprints, like short periods to discover something. And they let us in our space, because it was an open space, but we had a reserved space. And said, this is your desk, and here are all your monitors, and this is your computer from us, and you also have your own email address of us, and this is your login key, and so no. we're designers. We already brought our tools. You don't, right? It's like if you invite a painter to paint your house.
Yeah, here with the brushes. And
you're not taking away all his tools and making it...
Here was my leather, here's my brush, here's my paint can.
Or perhaps just don't give them at all taking it actively away.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you can't use letters here. No, that's not. And no, brushes aren't allowed. But we do have this marker.
Yeah.
Something like that. It's because it's the same, right? It's something that has paint. So, yeah. So it's really naive and very lovely. But to me, it was like, people not understanding what kind of thing was going on, and it's exactly that. So we told them, of course, like no, we bring our own tools because we're doing different things than you might be used to.
Yeah,
and to them it was a security risk, right? So we were basically, let's say, in the transition from peace to war. Lots of defensive tooling to make sure things stay the same and the outside world can't encroach on their space. And there we were, like people trying to bring wonderment.
Yeah, So
it was not welcome.
So nowadays I actually make plots to actually see where I think something is.
Yeah.
So to guide my language, but also to guide what I should ignore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Some behavior is like, okay, you're not part of the script.
Yeah.
Or we should like reprogram something or whatever.
Yeah, or there is no script, but you bring a script.
Yeah, exactly.
And it actually doesn't fit anymore. So it's the
yeah. Say, we have a little piece of paper in front of us.
I kept staring.
Okay. Let's show it to the people because we also have a video. So if you're listening, hi, this is my voice. We also have a video. So if you want to go to the video, we'll probably make a photo and you can see it on the website as well.
Yeah, we're going to do it as well.
But there's also a video, so you can see us talk, which is nice. So let's switch to this little note I made because there was this post a couple of months ago, even I think it's a couple of months ago, by the Board of Innovation. I always mispronounce it because through some dyslexia, I guess, I always read Board of Information or Board of Innovation, as a question towards people. Yeah. And so actually, yes, I am. And they brought something they called, well, it's this model over here. I think it's a manta ray or something shape. To me, it looks like a kite. But it's an alternative to this model. And this model is the double diamond. The double diamond is a very common model that we use. It's like the time goes that direction, and it implies kind of like how your brain fills up and needs to clear itself from information to actually progress in making something. Yeah. Right? So you discover all kinds of things. So you broaden your horizon a lot. You collect a lot of ideas, and then you have a phase where you say, okay, now we know a lot of things. Let's choose a couple of them and try to combine them. And it's like focusing, right? And so it's, exactly. Define for the more technical savvy people, and so you focus all the ideas that you want to pick first. It's not about leaving all the other ideas off the table, but just pick one. And then you start making a lot of things, and you make it very broad, and it's very nice and very complete as you can. And then you start testing and validating it. And this is an iterative process, right? So you do this in very short, periods of times, and then you repeat and you think again, or you take the next topic or the next whatever question you have. And what Board of Innovation did was, well, this thing is kind of dying out because we have more than people. We now have AI. Pum, pum, pum. And what they kind of said was, okay, you have like a little ID and that's enough. And from that ID with AI is very powerful. It can basically diverges on its own. Yeah. You basically start asking the same question again and again, which is, and what more? And then, etc. And it will fill up your notebook with all kinds of stuff. Hear my judgment, people. And so it talks about this little inspiration from people, like this is kind of like what we're thinking about, and AI goes wild. It basically starts making all the ideas and also starts making, you have generative AI, so you can also make all kinds of things. And the more you progress towards it, it's like little iterations. So basically you start making and testing things first with just AI, and then AI and people, because you have more refinement. And the further you refine things, the more you just have people where you have created something and validated something. And you use AI to get basically to rough out the idea. And then the more you get into the details, the less you need AI. Because you need less volume and you need more focus. So this was kind of like their pitch. And one thing really, really bothered me, because their reason for this thing, at least as I understand it, their reason for this thing is, well, we don't want to get stuck in all the ideation stuff. We don't want to get stuck in all the emotions and the empathetic phases of things. We want to scale empathy.
Yes.
We want to outsource empathy. And to me, this is a very, very bad and very presumptuous idea.
Yeah.
Expecting AI to actually deliver on what we just said, but specifically also that AI is basically bias carnate, right? It's all the biases that we have in the model.
Yeah, nostalgia in, nostalgia out. There it is again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't see this working. I don't see how this yields value or how this it will yield something, but I think it's ass backwards. I think this might be valuable if we do it reverse. Right? Start like with like a specific idea and have the thing create all kinds of things, and then starting playing around with people. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know either.
No.
But this is projecting certainty where there isn't certainty yet. Right?
That's it.
And so when I saw that one, I think I had the same reaction. First of all, I really loved the double diamond.
Yeah.
Because it is so malleable. It isn't that prescriptive. By the way, you said time. I always read that as certainty. So you start with uncertainty and you actually progress towards certainty. And sometimes you pivot back, which what I really love in a double diamond. You actually go back. Okay, you know what? The certainty isn't there. So back to one.
Yeah, this is the undo.
Yeah,
right.
That's it. That's all fantastic. Indeed, there is an undo in a double diamond.
Intrinsic undo. And people don't draw this line per se.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's very hard to draw it, and it kind of messes up the aesthetics of this thing.
You have the same thing with the ideal design thinking. Those five
the blobs,
the five blobs.
Yeah,
right. They conveniently forgot the feedback loops, and conveniently nobody actually does the feedback loops and just read it as a linear thing. Yeah.
But models and words dictate behavior.
Yeah. It's the
and I see people going through this flow and thinking because they used the flow, it yielded something valuable.
Yeah.
So the process. Please continue.
Yeah. No. But this is a nice one again, right? This is again. This is just for you to understand. Where am I?
Yeah.
It's a vector thing again. Where am I? Right.
Yeah.
Am I actually progressing to the next step of certainty? That's what the model says, but I don't feel it. So we actually have to pivot back.
Yeah.
So we actually go back to define or even discover, right? So this is almost like a little checkbox on are you sure?
Yeah.
Right. So
because if we see this model, it's like undo over here, undo over here, undo over here, or over here. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So all these lines,
Yeah, so indeed, right? So if you're here, okay, let's converge on the developer, what you call make, right? That's of diverge.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not working. I actually cannot do this well enough.
Yeah.
So we have to pivot back to the first diamond.
Yeah.
I actually have a model where I have 2 double diamonds. So actually 4 double diamonds.
Eight diamonds.
It's eight half
or
diamonds.
8 half diamonds.
But I mean this other, again, it's projecting certainty and selling certainty.
Yeah.
Where there isn't. And
to me was, and it kind of like, so they use the right words, it seems like, but I find it kind of abhorrent that a company like that is dismissive of the empathic part of
that
design.
one for sure. But also, nobody woke up and drew the double diamond, right? The double diamond is actually a capture of what worked before.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant with certainty. I mean, I'm just very sure, right? I mean, I happily assume there are very competent people at the board of innovation.
Yeah, and they're lovely and nice.
And it's and they're probably really nice to their moms, etc. But I'm pretty sure that they don't have enough body of certainty to say, and this is the model we have been using.
No,
right? I mean, this you write afterwards that something worked, and say, you know what? This is our embodiment of what worked for us.
Yeah, it's looking backwards. And,
it's looking backwards. And this is just pretending that you have this magic recipe because everybody is struggling with AI. And that's what you put,
But this is the paradigm of the history is written by the victors.
Yeah.
Right. So if you succeeded and you look back, apparently that's the model to actually succeed.
Yeah, well, I'm really curious the people that actually used it and failed, because that one you never see.
No.
And in my line of work, I come across these a lot of certainty selling consultants with pretty pictures.
Yeah.
There is one. People that know me, I'm not going to mention it, but there is one that is about ecosystem innovation.
Yeah.
And the person has this nice map with 3 circles, and in that map, conveniently, people are left out.
Oh yeah, you don't need people for systems.
No,
we are not part of systems.
We are not part of the ecosystem. No. We have no agency.
No.
I mean, so he has
or interacting.
Yeah, so there
interaction.
There is a great example of that map of the Airbnb ecosystem, and literally guests and hosts are missing.
So Ron, are you saying we are the patina of models? So we are kind of like the dirty edges that nobody wants to show. So as in people.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been treated, right? I mean, this inconvenience that needs to be abstracted away.
It doesn't clean it up.
I mean, how can you describe or try to describe, capture, understand, get across Airbnb and not mention guests and hosts as people with agency and creativity and their interconnections.
And dirty shoes.
And of course, dirty shoes. I mean, it's and the reason why. So I always kept wondering: did somebody actually use that map and made something successful by whatever measure of success in an ecosystem proposition by using that map?
Yeah.
I just cannot believe this. So it's all these certainty projection. Look, this is the convenient truth, right? This is nice circles, and you are in the center, of course, right? You are here, and your partner is there, and your other supplier is here. Isn't it nice? I call it the Kardashian model.
Oh.
Right, it's at first glance it looks really stylized and sometimes even good looking and well coordinated and well lit.
Yeah.
But if you dig a bit deeper, I mean, it's very skin deep.
So if you see the behind the scenes photos,
it's
you see the cellulite, and you see the bags under the eyes,
and that there is literally no story whatsoever.
Which is actually the charming part of being human, right? The nuances, the faultiness, the undesigned part.
That's it.
That is the aesthetic of what should be embedded in these these models.
That's what fascinates me in people that make great work, or that I think are great work, and turn out to be awful people.
Yeah.
Or at least people with an awful side to them, right? I mean, I think that's. I mean, and those things are linked, right? It's not this and that separately. It's linked, and so it's you cannot peel it away in its little constituents, right? The little elements, and that's it. It's the whole, and the whole is bigger than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
And somehow, I mean, why is that so difficult?
So
it's liberating to actually see it as I cannot decompose this in its little things, and I cannot control all the decompositions.
Yeah.
It is the messy hole. Messy holes are great.
That's the quote of the day.
That's going to be. I actually paused.
There will be. That will be the quote on your LinkedIn profile from now.
Yeah. Oh, but it's enough.
Yeah. No, but I agree. And at a certain moment, I was biking towards the train station, and I had this thought: we should be. I mean, of all things that our profession needs to be able to do, is design for the messy world.
Yeah.
Designed to not prevent patina.
No.
And patina is the little dirty fringes of a product that you see when something is used. You see that it's been used.
Yeah.
That's patina, and it's being perceived as charming.
Yeah.
Right? It's nice. It's an added value. You can see this is because the shape of the thing changes because of people interacting with it, and it's really, really nice. But why, for the love of all things that is holy, are we not training ourselves to design for the messy world, for the dirt,
for appreciation of the messiness, for appreciation of the dirt?
Yeah, not just working around it, but
it's also
enveloping it. Yeah.
That a lot of the great part is in the messiness, right? I mean, like fermentation. My fermentation is a messy process.
Yes,
it's actually a horrible process. What it produces is great stuff.
Yeah,
sometimes it just smells bad, but also great stuff.
Yeah,
and the messy, horrible process. I mean, the controlled rotting process is part of the product.
Yeah,
and you cannot separate it away in a nice septic tank. I mean, and we try, but that's so. To me, this is again the industrial mindset. Get rid of the messiness. Get rid of the variance.
Yeah,
everything needs to be square shaped, right? And the second dimensions, and we have tolerances of 0.1 millimeters and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And if not, then it's a reject.
And we look at it. Our judgment is the aesthetics.
Yes,
right. It's how we perceive things rather than how it actually is.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's a nice one.
for example, the open office part, if we see nice little poofs and a sliding thing going down and a foosball table.
I was about to say the foosball table.
All of a sudden, this is a very nice office. Oh, it should be very nice to work here. But it's not.
Yeah.
Because we actually sit your ass on such a little colorful poof, you will recognize that it's a horrible piece of furniture. Because it's made to look nice and
nothing else.
Be nice.
And that's a nice one,
right? And it's I think this is so we have an assignment. Be aware of the aesthetic of things and try to distinguish it from the intrinsic other properties, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I have to look it up. If we do kinetic discovery, we should use all our senses rather than just perceive the aesthetics.
Yeah. That was my great learning from when I was stuck to Zoom.
Yeah.
And then later on Teams.
Yeah.
For quite some weeks, months even, I struggled. Why is this not working for me?
Yeah.
Why do I feel so disembodied? And this is this.
I actually have we'll link into this. So I started during COVID. I started a video series, a very short one at this moment. And it's called Practice with Peet. It's about design for designers, but it also talks about this particular topic. So how you should be aware of limitations of an environment that you're operating in.
Marshall McLuhan has a concept of hot and cold media. And it is how much information is encoded in the media itself.
Yeah.
And if you take it away, then you need to fill that in.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's
either through more time.
Yeah.
Or add bandwidth.
Yeah.
Right? Add new perspectives.
Yeah. 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 So I mean, the very first workshop I did online on Miro with Zoom.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was a great workshop in real life. This was one of the most horrible experiences ever to me.
Because you didn't get feedback, or what was the thing?
It totally didn't work. There was no energy. There was no sparkle. People were doing it, going mechanically through the motions.
Right.
But in real life, it's actually a workshop where you move things.
Yeah.
I mean, kinetic, right? You actually, and now you just taking your mouse and you put a sticky note from left to right on a mirror board, and that's not moving things, oddly enough.
No.
It's the
interesting.
Yeah, Peter. This I'm gonna recollect some notes from. I'm gonna share. It's for weeks I was depressed.
Yeah.
I thought, oh my God, it's the so all this what I have been doing doesn't work anymore.
No.
And it's the. But then, of course, afterwards, I just embraced the whole physicality of things. So all our workshops are by definition physical.
Yeah.
And we take
screens won't be on.
No. Literally, I mean, there is 5 minutes screen time at the beginning, basically to actually say people this is the end of the screen time. And we also we have 3 rules, and one of them is you will get frustrated, but frustrated with the messiness.
Yeah,
there is messiness in what we're doing, and that's actually we're here to celebrate the messiness.
Yeah, indeed.
And so will you at the end of the workshop.
Oh wow, promises.
I'm gonna reframe it in messiness. This is messy.
Yes,
and it has to be messy.
And dealing with the messiness and I wouldn't say embracing it, because that's kind of like, well, you could, let's say this is a factor. Let's say embrace it, celebrate it, just wallow in it at first, I guess. But in particular, let's say the end state should be something akin of it is intrinsic, a part of both the process, but also of the end result.
And I feel comfortable being part of that bigger, messy thing.
Yeah.
And I understand my position and my agency, and I respect and understand others' position and agency.
Yeah. And this is a very important empathic tool as well.
Yeah.
Right? You have a model of somebody, of other people, your colleagues in your mind. And if somebody misbehaves or deviates from the behavior, you will all of a sudden say, well, this isn't what we want. So you start correcting other people rather than embracing their agency, basically.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, wow. We ate up the entire piece of time of the clock.
Yeah, and then some. I think this is the longest one yet, I have a feeling.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I really love it because, this is just lovely. So shall we end up?
We should.
And oh man, I wanted to interrupt the flow of the thing in the middle, just to inform you guys. If you find this interesting, if you think this is valuable to you, you go to the cinema, you enjoy yourself, you have a couple of laughs, and you pay for that, right? And similarly, we feel like this is at the least interesting for us, so we pay each other, and this is a zero-sum game in that regard. But for you, it might also be valuable for you. So if you think this is valuable, just get a calculator, and it doesn't really matter what it is worth for you. If it's 2 cents, go to itsjustamodel.com, click on the value for value, and give us 2 cents. If you think this is like an entire course of being a human or being a great designer, give us the value of that. Give us the value of a course or a masterclass. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. And we really appreciate you listening and watching us. And if you want to interact, please tap us on the shoulder. We are humans and we are in 3D, so you can actually approach us.
We actually exist.
Yeah, exactly. I will be most of the time in The Hague, and I guess we'll be somewhere in the vicinities of Amsterdam.
Yep.
And and if you want to reach us through the electronic ways, IDs at itsjustamodel.com. I think that's it. Did we check off all the entire list? Yeah, I think
probably
so.
Not. But
But this is goodbye. See you later. See you the next time.
See you next time.
Ciao.